Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Remotely Speaking Up. This week, we are joined by Larry English. Larry is the president of Centric Consulting, which is really a maverick in the remote working world. Larry's firm has been fully remote, long before the pandemic, long before anyone really started talking about remote work. And now that the world is reopening, or we can say reopened, and still kind of treading waters in the area, Larry's firm is now really helping a lot of organizations to go hybrid. So we are here with Larry to talk more about what he does and also how he helps organizations navigate these, let's say, these rough or choppy or unusual waters. Let's put it that way. So Larry, I'll turn over to you to tell us a bit more about yourself first. Who is Larry English?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
I'll introduce myself. So I'm president and co-founder of Centric Consulting, as you mentioned, and we're about 1,100 people. We're in 12 US cities and India, about 300 people in India, and we've been remote from day one. And the reason, and this is about 20 years, it was unheard of back then. The reason we did it is we were trying to break all the rules, and we wanted our employees to be happier. And we thought that they could be happier, they could have better balance in their lives if they, if they weren't on the client side, or when they weren't a need to do that they could be remote. And so we did that, and it was hard because the technology wasn't as good, and there were a lot of things we had to figure out. We kind of figured it out over the last 20 years. And then we've known this secret. This is awesome. This is a great way to work. It's a better way to work, but nobody believed us. And then the pandemic happened and everybody's seeing that. And now they're like, hey, I think we want that too.
And why did you figure, what was it about remote work that made you think that that was the fun way to go? What made you really be interested in it as a concept for your firm?
We were just talking to employees, and so many companies, it's just this 8 to 5, 8 to 8 mindset in a lot of cases. Where, it's just all about business and didn't take into consideration, for employees how to have a better balanced lifestyle. And we wanted to build that kind of core into our business model. And so what's eventually happened is, I think companies have caught up to that, and the world has changed. And certainly in the US, employees want better balance in their life. And then the pandemic happened and proved out that, hey, you can entrust your employees, and this, our employees are actually happier when they do this.
Yeah, that's amazing. What would you say are the sort of pain points you find for a lot of the companies that you first approach with remote working, or who want your help?
Yes. So, this is kind of interesting. What's happening right now. So let me back up. So during the pandemic, we were working with a lot of our customers, and there were some early adopters that saw it, and they're like, this is the way to go. And so anyway, all the companies the HR department was pulling their employees about, hey, do you like remote work? Do you want to come back into the office? How do you feel? And the numbers were like around 5% on average that people wanted to come back full time into the office 5 days a week. And so we knew that if enough companies started to adopt remote work, everyone was going to have to, because you were going to lose your employees. And so now that the pandemic is easing, you're seeing some companies are like, hey, we just want to go back to the old way. And they're mandating everybody has to come back into the office. And so they did that, and they're losing their employees, a lot of them. And so the CEOs are going, whoa, time out. We need to rethink that. We're open to. So there was a McKinsey article last week that predicted 90% of companies will adopt hybrid. So now what's happening is it's falling largely on the CHRO in a lot of the organizations. They're saying, hey, you need to figure this out. And to do a hybrid model well is not easy, because it's everything from when do you get together, gathering strategy, how do you have fairness in people that are on site or not on site, how do you maintain your culture? There's a lot to it. And so that's, companies are like, whoa, there's a lot we got to get done in a short period of time. Can you help us, maybe accelerate some of that?
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of that in my own work as well. One of the main things a lot of leaders seemed surprised by was the amount of reach they had when they actually went remote, because we tend to think of remote work or a talent, seeking talent within the context of your geographic location. But now all of a sudden you have access to this talent. And where your employees catch on to that as well and realize that companies are catering towards that, all of a sudden, if you don't get on board, as you said, companies start to lose a lot of talent.
So yeah, so it works both ways. It can be good and bad. So
yeah,
you know, the good is you can hire anywhere in the world now. So that brings in gig and freelancers. It widens your talent pool. The bad is all your competitors anywhere in the world now can hire your folks. And so we're seeing that happen right now. It's happened to us, even and we have a remote, you know, culture. So as an example, we've had Silicon Valley steal some of our folks with really high salaries because they said, you don't have to move to Silicon Valley anymore. You can stay right where you're at.
Wow. So yeah, it goes both ways, I guess. You're right. What can companies do then? Or what have you seen companies do? You mentioned some companies offer a lot higher salaries, but what do you think are the major companies, not the major companies, sorry, what do you think are the major ways that companies can change to become more inviting to employees who now prefer a hybrid model? So
the first thing is kind of at the executive level, starting with the vision. What do we want our hybrid vision to be? And the closer that companies can get to employee choice, they're going to attract more people. So all of a sudden becoming much more accommodating to remote workers and giving them maximum flexibility. And there's a lot of, that was mine. There was the mindset we couldn't trust our employees. They had to be sitting at their desk 8 to 5. And the pandemic kind of proved that out. But even within that, now people are saying, okay, you can work remote, but you still need to be at your desk 8 to 5. And what we try to say is, no, take advantage of being allow employees the flexibility to, if they want to go to the yoga class in the middle of the day or take their kid to lunch, build that in because you have that flexibility. So the more you can do that, you're going to keep and attract employees.
Yeah, I imagine that you free up quite a bit of creativity as well when you give employees the option to work in the way that they want to work.
So, you know, it's funny is absolutely. So we allow our employees to be digital nomads if they want to be. So they don't have to be in a city. And so during the end of the last fall, my youngest was doing online school. So my wife and I did a digital nomad trip for 6 weeks. We traveled all over the West with our dog and our kid. And I came back so energized and refreshed. And I was still able to work that entire 6 weeks. So it had both effects. And so it's really cool. Some companies now are offering, you know, policies of, instead of saying, hey, you're going to go for a vacation for a week at the beach, why don't you go live for a month or two somewhere else and work while you're doing it? But it'll give you that same energy that vacation at the beach would. Yeah,
that's true. I got back from Barbados a few months ago, but I'm still jealous. Just maybe because you mentioned a dog. You had a dog. I don't have a dog. I really won't. I can really see that happening because that's how I feel as well. I started this habit now of in the middle of the day, going for a bike ride. And I would go in these really beautiful areas because I live in a very beautiful part of England, thankfully. And I just go for a bike ride and you just get that refocus and time away from the screen. And that makes all the difference in the world.
It does. And there's a lot of research now that's being done. There is Zoom fatigue. Being on the video call all day and seeing that, it does cause more fatigue to our minds. And so you need to build those breaks into your day to stay mentally fresh.
Yeah, I had a bit of an ironic moment last week because, of course, remote work specialist is something I do, is something I preach about, but sometimes I forget to practice what I preach. So last week I had full digital burnout where I couldn't stare at a screen longer than 20 minutes. So I spent a lot of the time, I would take hours at a time during the day and just put a mask over my face just in the dark, just to recover because my eyes were just burning. And I think
you need to get to Barbados more.
Maybe it's missing the sunlight, but it was so ironic. I'm like, here I am suffering from the same thing I tell people to avoid. But I think that's just my nature. Sometimes I get too into a task. So I think coming out to that as well, one of the things that have really taken the forefront is well-being. And for rational reasons, you have people now who are working from home with all kinds of circumstances within the home. Some who are trying to get used to working from home and working from the office. Some who don't want to return to the office. So now there's a real mental health issue. I don't want to say crisis, but I would even play with the word crisis, because everywhere we turn, we're hearing mental health. Everyone's crying out for, as you said, fatigue and a lot of other pressures. So what is it that you think within a hybrid model we can do? Let's start with the leaders first, and then I'll go to the employees. What can leaders do to help ensure the well-being of their employees within a hybrid model?
Sure. So there is a big onus on the leadership of a company and the management to live that. So there's multiple paths to go down here. So one is allowing, so what happens is employees don't work less when they work remote, they work more.
Yeah.
Because there's no boundaries. And so as an organization, you need to make it okay for employees to have boundaries and be able to turn off. So don't expect them to reply to chat messages at 11 p.m. at night. Don't make that the expectation. Allow them to have quiet hours. Allow them to build what refreshes them during the day. Make that okay. Into your day. So the other thread to go down is there was during the pandemic where you needed to be especially caring because people were dealing with so many circumstances. But even coming out of that, we try to be very, it's really interesting. I think it will really, it has the opportunity to really improve diversity and inclusion. So if somebody needs to take care of a sick parent, or they have a special needs son or daughter, or you can now accommodate those things. And so as an organization, being much more accommodating to allow people to design their day around those particular issues, you're gonna build so much loyalty with your employees by being able to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, the second part you asked me was from an employee standpoint. And so what I mentioned before is, you know, if you have an employee that's allowing you to have good work-life balance, you need to learn to structure your day so that whatever works for you. Everybody's a little bit different. You know, I have my routine, and I like to work out midday or later in the day. Other people like to, whatever those things are that refresh you, and then design your day and your week around those activities that are going to, you know, and there's probably multiple breaks that you take throughout the day. And then, you know, as an example, there's a concept, I think it's called Feierabend, and it's a German word. It's like everybody has a traditional way that they end their day. And it is the ceremonial way to say, I'm going from work to home, and I'm not going to go back and look at my computer. So you need to develop discipline around that. And then certainly your work environment, if your company doesn't provide a stipend, get a good chair, get a standing desk, get an elevated monitor, because those things do matter. And you can have workers' comp issues if you're not addressing those as well. Yeah,
that's true. I like what you said in terms of designing the day around your lifestyle, but also your circumstance. And I think that's really important, because a lot of persons, especially parents are thinking, well, I have 3 screaming kids running around the house, so how can I possibly stop to meditate? How can I possibly stop to do that? But I think, as you said, it's really about designing it around what suits you rather than what you think you should be doing, which then causes you a lot more stress and anxiety. So I think I think that's a really good point as well. So what do you see as the sort of trends, as you've been working with persons who are moving towards hybrid models? What do you see as some of the trends as companies try to do this?
Sure. So let's hit on some of the ones that are just really popping up in the last few weeks. So one is, there was a Microsoft study that came out last week. 40% of employees are considering a job change this year. This is, I don't know if that was worldwide or in the US,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the pandemic caused people to rethink their lives, what was important. People liked hybrid, and they're like, I'm not, and I like this balance in my life. I'm not sure I want to go back into the office. So what's happening is most companies, they realize it or not, their talent is very much at risk of turning over and big turnover if they don't get on top of it. The other thing that has happened is, so the pandemic accelerated what was already underway.
Yeah.
And so now every company has to adopt hybrid and put in place technology and be in the cloud. And then during the pandemic, customers went to digital channels and how they interact with companies, let's say in healthcare, virtual physician visits, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, every company now is a tech company. And there is not enough tech people in the world to do all this. And so we are seeing in the last few weeks, I've never seen it this crazy before. We're seeing salary escalation of 40 to 50%. I have an article coming out next week in Forbes about this. It is, I don't think this is not a bubble like the tech bubble in the 2000s. I think this is going to be a prolonged issue. And so companies are going to have to get on top of this and figure out how to retain their people. The other trend is all related to that. Is companies are going to need to learn to move much faster because every industry is being disrupted by technology. And so like the startups, there's startups that are coming out against them. They're all in the cloud. They hire people from anywhere. They don't have offices. They're super agile and they're just way faster. And so all companies are going to have to learn to use agile principles, lean startup principles, and move much faster than they have in the past.
Yeah. And I think you make a lot of good points there. Just starting with the technology points alone, I hope one of the things that companies are moving towards as well is looking at how they can reskill the current employees that they have, where they're finding they have those technology gaps. What can they do internally to fill them? I'm sure not a lot of employees are probably wishing now they took a technology degree, given what's happening with the salary escalations and so forth. And then the other element as well with companies just being more open to hiring different types of talent. As you said, they need to become more agile. And I remember one of the things we spoke about in the gig HR framework was to look at how your rules might need to change for different categories of workers. So I think a lot of companies do need to do a big rethink. You're right, a big rethink around this area.
It's the great workplace transformation of our time.
Yeah. And as you said, it was coming. We knew that it was coming for a while. We didn't know it would come this quickly, but here we are.
Exactly. Yeah. It just accelerated into a year, what would take 10 or 15 years normally.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say in terms of mindset? Because I know a lot of companies tend to be stifled because of their approach to this. Some because they're very traditional in nature. Others because of real, let's say, infrastructural issues that they didn't think of before, they didn't need before. Now they have to do a complete transformation. But in terms of looking at the mindset point of view, what do you think is the mindset that's needed to really make a hybrid model thrive, not just for leaders, but also the employees or workers who use it?
Sure. So it was going to what we were talking about before a little bit is you have to start with trust, number one.
Yeah.
And so we still have, there's executives that grew up in an office and they're running those companies now.
Yeah.
And they just have, when we talk to some of these companies, they just have such a hard time visualizing how this can work long-term and work well, because they're just so used to, one executive's like, hey, I like to look out over the office floor on a Friday afternoon and see the buzz. And so I know that the company's doing well when I see that. And you can't measure that when you can't see everybody.
Yeah.
But certainly you can have the same buzz and you can be as productive, if not more productive. But you got to learn. And so there's that reluctance. And so when companies look at the pros and the cons of hybrid, and they start to see, okay, I can get the cost savings in real estate. I can hire more diverse talent. I'm going to keep my talent. If you go through it, it's the cost, the pros and the cons it's very weighted in the pros.
Yeah.
So then if you can't still convince the executives, then what's happening is what we're seeing now, which is they're losing really good talent, and they're going to be forced, or a competitor is eating their lunch. That'll cause them to change.
I like that. That's a good way of putting it. Competitors eating their lunch. It goes against everything that not even just their generation, but our generation would have grown up hearing. And I know definitely with the millennial generation, a lot of and Gen Z as well, a lot of employers have complained that this generation has really pushed back. Why can't they follow the rules? Why can't they stick to tradition? But even though you're finding baby boomers as well, a lot of baby boomers, especially, for example, those who retire, are saying, well, actually, I still want to engage with the firm. Let's see how we can work in a remote way. So from every end, that sort of mindset is really being challenged. But it's good to see that change is starting to take root.
Yeah, I use my oldest son graduated from college. So just to give you an example, he's living in Lake Tahoe right now, working for a company in Chicago, and his customer is in Australia.
Oh, lovely.
And so that generation, what we're finding when we hire those kinds of folks, they're awesome. They're talented, creative, hardworking. Yeah. But they want that kind of lifestyle. They want to work and then take the summer off and go in an RV. And so we need to learn to accommodate that. Yeah,
absolutely. I always preach about my favorite reward in any company is flexibility. I want the ability to do what I want with my time. Exactly. and this way helps. And a lot of other people feel that way as well. So you're right.
Absolutely.
Well, Larry, we're just out of time. So I thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared. But of course, before you go, we need one funny work story from you. That's how we end every episode.
I have so many. And
good.
If you pick up my book, Office Optional, it has 50 stories in it.
Wow.
And I would say half of them are hilarious. what not to do.
Yeah.
So I will tell you one of the stories from there. And so we were, as I mentioned before, we've always made it okay for people to take their conference calls wherever they are, wherever they want.
Yeah.
And we had a happy hour one night, and everybody was sharing, where is the funniest place you've taken a work conference call? And one guy shared the story that, so on Fridays, we have this leadership call at 8:30. And so he would work out and he would come home, and he'd have that call, and then he'd have a meeting afterwards. And so he would not have time to shower to get to the meeting. So his solution was he would take the conference call in the shower. And so what he would do is he would put the phone up on the ledge in his shower. And then of course somebody would call on him, right? So he would turn the water off, stand there shivering, and then answer the question, and then put it back on mute and put it back up at the ledge and finish his shower. So he told that story, and now we, of course, never let him live it down.
At least I think that is still better than I had a friend who she forgot to turn the camera off while doing that.
That one's a little worse.
Yeah. And it was a conference. It was like hundreds of people across the globe, and she was waiting for them to start, and she forgot to turn her camera off. They got a full show.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Larry. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for our audiences for listening and for watching again. Larry, just before we go, tell us where we can find you online.
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Larry K. English, and the easiest way is probably larryenglish.net.
larryenglish.net. And your book is Office Optional.
Office Optional, How to Build a Connected Culture with Virtual Teams.
Brilliant. So if you want to get that book, and if you want to know more about how to engage your teams, please check that out. I'm sure you can find that on Amazon, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right.
And I will say, all the proceeds go to charity to improve the digital divide.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really good. I didn't know that. That's really good. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Larry. And thank you again for everyone listening and watching. And this has been another episode of Remotely Speaking Up. Take care for now.
Bye.